Pretty boy, James Harden. Aiming at your boy.
Tommy. Ah! What's poppin', Team Tommy? Today we got how the T-Rex lost its arms. If I'm being completely honest, Team Tommy, bro, I feel bad for the T-Rex. Because I'm sure bro, I'm sure it wasn't as violent as they make it out to be. The U.S. and white people be doing that with a lot of God's creatures. Now, one thing I do feel super bad about, bro. Imagine dude cannot beat his dick at all, bro. Like, imagine you a lonely T-Rex, you can't get no play, and you can't even play with yourself. Hold on, let me relax. Let's get into the video.
If there are three things any 6-year-old knows about dinosaurs, it's that Tyrannosaurus rex was big, Tyrannosaurus rex was vicious, and Tyrannosaurus rex had tiny arms. T-Rex dominated the western United States during the Cretaceous period from 68 to
bro, in the T-Rex's defense, bro, you gotta be vicious at that time to be able to eat your prey, bro. Unless you finna just be a scavenger.
6 million years ago, and in its day was the largest carnivore.
Oh, he's screaming.
But for such a fearsome predator, it certainly had its quirks, like those teeny tiny arms, the source of so many jokes about how a Tyrannosaurus couldn't do push-ups or give a decent high five. Even from a biological perspective, they look pretty small. The average T-Rex weighed about 10,000 kilograms and stood between 4.5 to 6 meters tall. But its two-fingered forelimbs were less than 1/8 as long as its hind limbs.
Bro, you know what I just thought about, bro? If it lays down, how does it lay down? Like, does it just lay down like a bird? But, like, at the same time, bro, if it lays down on its side, because that's the most comfortable way to sleep, how does it get back up? I guess it can probably roll. I guess it can probably roll.
Only a little bigger than your own arms. And the story of how
But even then, you can't lift yourself up.
Itself pretty simple, but the story of why it kept those little limbs and how it used them, that's a little more complicated. The short answer as to why T-Rex had tiny arms: they ran in the family. Early ancestors of the genus Tyrannosaurus included the prosauropods, which first appeared way back in the Triassic and had forelimbs just as long as their hind limbs. But as time went on, more and more of these early dinosaurs became bipedal, and once they were standing on their hind legs, their front limbs suddenly were freed up to be used in different ways. And many of the early carnivorous bipedal dinosaurs had sharp claws on their forelimbs.
That'd be scary, bro.
Made them more useful for hunting than for standing on. But the group that wound up producing Tyrannosaurus rex took an evolutionary right turn somewhere in the Jurassic 150 million years ago. Instead of relying on their forelimbs to help them hunt, members of the superfamily known as Tyrannosauridae, which includes Tyrannosaurus and its relatives, started to use their jaws. One of the earliest tyrannosaurs is Guanlong, a small 150 million year old dinosaur from China. Guanlong had a tiny head and long forelimbs, well, long for a tyrannosaur.
Now, this is one thing I don't understand, bro. This is one thing I don't understand. How do you only have like that many bones and that much of a fossil, but you can somehow on the computer come up with the whole body of it and like the whole like all the meat and the muscle and the hairs and stuff, bro? Like, how do you even know it had hair, bro?
About half the length of its legs. But fast forward around 25 million years in China and you find Raptorix, which had the same basic body plan but with different proportions. Raptorix was still only about 1 meter tall, but its head was about 1/3 larger than Guanlong and its forelimbs were about half as long. So Raptorix looked a lot like a tiny pocket-sized version of a Tyrannosaurus rex, but it shows up in the fossil record around 70 million years before T-Rex did. That means that the characteristics we think of as defining T-Rex, namely a huge head and tiny forelimbs, were actually part of a 90 million year trend in that direction, and that big head wasn't just for looks. Its enormous jaws gave T-Rex bite force up to 57,000 newtons, which is enough to pulverize bone. With a bite that nasty, having long forelimbs wasn't really necessary. But beyond that, long arms weren't just not needed. For some dinosaurs, they were kind of in the way. That's because of how bipedal dinosaurs walked. We swing our arms when we walk and run to help us maintain balance to keep our upper body stable. But dinosaurs like tyrannosaurs had long, rigid tails, which acted as stabilizers, so they didn't need to swing their arms. If anything, having big forelimbs would have just slowed them down. From what we've learned about the mechanics...
Oh, hold on. This kind of confusing me too. Because the reason we run like this, bro, the faster you move your arms, the faster you can move your legs. So, like, if you want to Naruto, bro, anybody can Naruto run. You don't have to run with your arms going like that. So I'm confused, bro, because if the T-Rex is moving its arms, bro, it would definitely go faster, bro. And then it could just use its tail to, like, knock people out and, like, slam stuff.
Mechanics of their bones and musculature, we know that natural body posture for many tyrannosaurs was with their forelimbs tucked close to their bodies. Some specimens have even been found in this position as fossils. This type of research, by the way, is also how we know that Tyrannosaurus and other carnivorous dinosaurs held their forearms with their palms facing each other.
Bro, like, what is the point in having that? Like, bro, you can't do nothing with them, bro. Damn. 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 That would suck so bad.
And that they didn't have the wrist mobility to hold them facing down. So when you're doing your T-Rex impression, make sure you're like, ah! Not never like this. That's inaccurate. And if you wanted to be totally accurate about it, and of course you would, because why wouldn't you, then you should only use your thumb and forefinger, because those two digits are the only ones that T-Rex retained. So like, so that's how Tyrannosaurus rex, or Tyrannosauridae in general, lost their big arms. Over 90 million years, their heads got bigger as their jaws became their primary weapons, and their forelimbs got smaller because that probably made it easier for them to move around. But T-Rex still had arms. If they were such a liability, why didn't they just lose them entirely? Well, that's a little more complicated. Initially, paleontologists thought that T-Rex forelimbs were vestigial, just leftover relics of true arms that were so small as to be useless. But after lots of study of some well-preserved fossil finds, we've learned that their forelimbs were covered in muscle attachments. So while they weren't very strong, the arms could move. So what could they have been used for? One of the most common theories is that T-Rex used its forelimbs during mating. Studies on the biomechanics of its arms have shown...
Bro, yeah, that's why I was on such a long pause and just said that's why it sucks. I didn't want to get into all that, but like since he got into it, let's get into it, bro. So like you can't reach your own private part, but you can reach somebody else's private part, no kizzy. So like they must have been getting, that's the only reason they had them. They must have been just getting it, going with them fingers, them 2 fingers, bro. That's all you need, 2 fingers. Now listen, if she can fit more than 2 fingers, she either A, been cheating, B, you messing it up, or C, she a super thought. She for the streets.
Shown that they were pretty powerful at adduction, which is the technical term for the movement you make when you hug something. So adduction could have been used either as part of courtship, because who doesn't like a
They're
good
saying when they
hug,
hug?
or to help hold male Tyrannosaurus in place during mating. However, other scientists think T-Rex could have
So they got a bang standing straight up looking at each other. More sensual.
used its limbs not for loving, but for fighting. Its fingers, after all, were tipped with claws that were about 1/4 of the length of the whole forelimb. Still, that's less than half as large as one of their teeth. And although their arms were...
Yo, do y'all think dinosaurs ate the cookie? I can't, bro. I can't. That's what I know from when I was young, bro. I don't know what to call that thing without getting demonetized or getting a copyright strike or some shit on my YouTube, bro. I don't want to say something too inappropriate, bro. But you think they were able to eat it down there, or even give some sloppy top? You think dinosaurs could give some sloppy top? Because they did have some wild teeth. They had some wild teeth.
muscular, they didn't measure up to the force of its bone-crushing bite. So if these arms were used to slash at prey, it was only as a supplement for the killing power of its jaws. Others have suggested that T-Rex used its hugging skills to kill, planting its forelimbs into its prey while biting down, dealing a death blow and a death hug at the same time.
I never thought about
It's
that.
possible that there wasn't
Stick your fingers in their neck.
any use for these tiny forelimbs. Maybe T-Rex arms were what we call a spandrel, a byproduct of other evolutionary changes that doesn't necessarily have a purpose or advantage of its own. Over millions of years, Tyrannosauridae followed an evolutionary course toward having smaller forelimbs.
Bro, low-key got
heads.
cheetah print
So
on it.
maybe if they hadn't gone extinct, the descendants of T-Rex would have gone one step further and lost their forelimbs entirely. Truth be told, if we're ever gonna really know how Tyrannosaurus rex used its arms, if it did at all, we're gonna need to find some more fossils. For example, to figure out if T-Rex used its forelimbs for slashing, paleontologists would need to find a fossil that had slash marks that clearly came from T-Rex claws, and we haven't found that yet. And even more challenging to know whether Tyrannosaurus
How would you
rex
find
used
that with
its
no skin,
forelimbs
though?
during mating, we'd have to find two T-Rexes preserved in the act, so to say, and that would be a remarkable find. But that's part of what makes paleontology so interesting. There are always more questions to be answered. To figure them out, we just have to dig up the right fossils. Thanks for joining me today, and in case you didn't know, Eons is now on Patreon. Patreon is a voluntary subscription service.
I'm assuming that this last 40 seconds is his promo. Yeah. Well, Team Tommy, this was pretty educational. We learned some things. You learn something new every day, Team Tommy. I love you. I love you. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And love, peace, and chicken grease.